Hello, and thanks for joining us on Black Issues Forum. I'm Joshua Senegal, in for Deborah Holt-Noel. We have a lot we want to dig into this week, including what happened in the nation's capital. But before we get to that, we're talking with the man who made North Carolina history this week. Lieutenant Governor Mark Robinson joins us now. Thank you so much for being here with us this morning. The first thing I wanted to really get your take on is really just being the state's first black lieutenant governor. Obviously, it's 2021, and it's almost kind of shocking to hear something like that. So what has it been like to kind of hit this achievement?
Well, thank you for having me here, first off. And, it's amazing to me. I tell people all the time, I tout the greatness of this nation all the time. And when I think about the fact that here I am, a kid who grew up on the east side of Greensboro, poor, with all the strikes against me, and now, as a student of history, to actually make history and set this standard, not just for my family, but set this standard in this state, it is absolutely fantastic. It's a wonderful feeling. And again, I think it points to the greatness of this state and the greatness of this nation.
So, of course, making this achievement is just the first step. How else do you plan on really making your mark as a leader in North Carolina?
Well, there were things that we talked about all throughout the campaign, but the very first things we want to fight for, one of the number one things is for some election reform, but that's an issue that we maybe could talk about on a different day. But one of the standards I would really like to set is to make North Carolina's Veterans Care the gold standard in this nation. We reap a lot of benefits from our military. Our military serves in a great capacity in this state, and we have a long, rich military history here. And I think it's only fitting that North Carolina be the best state in the nation for our veterans to retire in. And so we want to try to set our sights on that. And, of course, we're going to try to make some strides in education as well.
Oh, absolutely. One of the things that's kind of marked the past several years has been the back and forth between Governor Roy Cooper and the Republican-led General Assembly. How do you plan to bridge that divide or try and be something of a mediator to try and help us, get a little bit more unity in that regard among our state leadership?
Well, I welcome the challenge of trying to find common ground with Governor Cooper to try to work hard towards making the lives of the citizens of North Carolina even better. I believe there are many things that we can find common ground on, and I believe that we can sit down together, talk out our differences, and I believe that we can move forward and find some unity. Of course, there's going to be some things where we're going to see, not going to see eye to eye on, and probably not ever see eye to eye on. But the things that we can, I think, will make a huge difference in this state.
And you mentioned not seeing eye to eye and trying to reconcile with that. One of the things that have been a topic of conversation over this last election cycle is the support that African Americans tend to show overwhelmingly for Democrats. How would you, or do you have anything to say to an African American who approaches this or views this like, well, he's black, but he's a Republican, so I don't know if that's something I can get behind or something I can support?
Well, one of the things that I greatly hope to see over the next few years is that we see more diversity of political thought amongst black people in this nation. We see black people branching out into all forms of in the workforce, in entertainment, in business, in athletics. We are branched out. We are achieving at the highest levels of in every aspect in this nation. And I would really like to see more diversity of thought because I know it's out there. And I think people seeing me as a conservative Republican, I think it's going to encourage a lot of black people out there who think like me, believe in the things that I believe in, to step up, become politically aware, politically active. And I think we're going to start seeing a lot more diverse thought amongst black people, political thought in this nation, and voting that way as well.
Absolutely. And, of course, this week, the big news has been what transpired in Washington, D.C. How would you characterize it, and how will you kind of remember and reflect on that day as far as its impact on us culturally and potentially politically as well?
Well, we talked a lot about the riots that we saw this past summer. And My fervent belief then was that law enforcement should have been allowed to do what it needed to do to quell that violence. The same is true with the folks who commit these egregious acts in Washington, D.C. They need to be dealt with to the highest extent of the law possible. It is high time that elected officials get behind law enforcement to make sure that our cities, no matter whether it be Washington, D.C., Baltimore, Ferguson, wherever it may be, that those cities are safe, that businesses are safe, and that the citizens that live there are safe. It's time for us to revive law and order in this country, to get behind our police officers, our law enforcement officers, to make sure they have the tools and the ability to be able to keep our city safe. And I think that what happened in Washington, D.C. highlights that. And I think that those folks should be held to the highest extent of the law and be punished.
Lieutenant Governor Robinson, thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.